Thank you for joining me for another video on vocabulary related to the study of Japanese history. This was originally going to be 2 terms, as I said before, but as I was writing it, I thought it would be better to break up this one and the next one. Sesshō is usually translated into English as regent. It was what is called a Ryoge no kan. These were elements of the imperial government that were created outside of the laws and regulations of the Ritsuryo system. I previously talked about the Ritsuryo and Ritsuryosei in ways that may have made them sound more absolute and decisive than they were in order to avoid confusion at that time. The reality of how the imperial government operated was much more complex and nuanced. A number of departments and positions and such were created to deal with things that fell outside of the Ritsuryo. Even in its golden age of the early Heian period, the Ritsuryo did not address everything that the imperial court had to deal with. Sesshō were, in most cases, the regent for an emperor who had not yet come of age, and therefore could not participate in the government. In some cases, he was regent for an adult emperor that was, for one reason or another, unable to participate in the government. Although not part of the Daijōkan, Council of State, in terms of government, the Sesshō would rank above both the Sadaijin and Daijōdaijin. Since the emperor was not able to participate in government, the Sesshō acted, at least in theory, on his behalf, but this did not mean he simply passed on the will of the emperor to the Daijōkan and others. He had the power under his own authority as Sesshō to make the same decisions, appointments, and so on that were usually the purview of the emperor. His orders and decisions were supposed to be taken as essentially the same as if they were coming from the emperor. Of course, what was supposed to be and what were did not always match, but Sesshō was generally a fairly high and powerful position, of course, because they were the stand-in for the emperor in effect. Beginning in the 10th century, the Fujiwara, specifically certain branches of the northern Fujiwara, began to dominate the imperial court, and eventually had hereditary rights to the titles of Sesshō and Kanpaku, which is a term I will be covering in the next video. This is beyond the scope of either of these videos, but I felt like I had to at least mention it so that you would be aware of it if you were not already. After the Meiji Restoration of the late 1800s, the position of Sesshō was changed so that only members of the imperial family could be given it. In fact, the Showa emperor, better known in the West as Emperor Hirohito, was made Sesshō no Miya, or Prince Regent on behalf of his father in the last years of his life. Thank you so much for joining me and watching this video. I appreciate you giving me your time. Please check out the playlist for other videos on kanji and vocabulary words by myself and Anthony Cummings. Until next time, otsukaresama deshita.